Did you know we're giving away this shiny Crobat right now? All you gotta do to enter is subscribe to Long Live the Lads and comment on each video in this series. If your comment's funny or grabs our attention, we'll enter you in to win. Contest ends 1 week after the final episode airs, so check out the description for more details. Comment today to win this shiny Crobat.
The morbid reality subreddit.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of addictive to scroll through.
I don't think we ever talked about that. You started mentioning that to me, and then something happened. What is that?
Yeah. Okay, so morbid reality is it's not watch people die, and it's not best gore, but it is kind of in the same vein, where it's mostly like tragedy driven, but it's not like tragedy porn. Like, I think the most upvoted post on the subreddit is like, I'm not going to go into detail and describe any of the pictures because they are sensitive material and like not everyone wants gore described to them.
Right.
But for people who know about Tiananmen Square, but for people who know about Tiananmen Square, like what happened, like everyone knows about the Tank Man. Not everyone knows about the actual outcome of the people who stood in front of the tanks.
Right.
I feel like that's explanation enough.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the most upvoted post on that subreddit is a picture of why China is trying to hide what they did there. It's the aftermath. And then the comments explain. And they're grisly, but it's not like, oh, look at how fucking gross this is, like Best Gore and Watch People Die was.
Yeah.
They're almost reverent in that these things are posted, but it's kind of, at least, like, I don't know, I have only just recently discovered it, but I have been scrolling through it, like, for hours today and, like, yesterday. It's almost like, the tone is, yeah, I guess, nearly reverent, because they're tragedies, but they shed light on this is what really happened, this is what you're not shown, this is what war actually looks like, you know?
Yeah.
It's very much like, yeah, the morbid reality. They're not joking. Like, this is what tragedies actually look like to first responders, to soldiers, to civilians. And it's really interesting. Like, you get the full unfiltered pictures, and not all of them are, like, gore. Like, one picture I saw was, like, a mother and a father, like, listening to the heartbeat of their son's heart in, like, the donor, or in the guy who received the heart.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, they're all sad for the most part, but it's not, like, angst porn.
Right.
It's just a very unique, interesting subreddit. It doesn't, like, exploit things for, like, look at how icky it is, you know? It's, I don't know. I find it really interesting, but then again, like, I am not too bothered by grim subject matter.
Yeah.
I just think it's really, like... Also, if you're, like, a minor listening to this, don't go to the subreddit. Like, there's no porn there, but if you're, like, easily disturbed, if you don't like gore, if you don't like blood, if you don't like or hearing about tragedies, if you're just kind of, like, a fragile-minded person, don't go to the subreddit. Like, I'm giving you all the explanation you need.
Furthermore, if you're a minor listening to this, don't take that as a challenge to prove that you're not fragile-minded.
Yeah, literally
it will
don't.
Scar
like,
you.
Yeah, like, super, like, this isn't like, yeah, I bet you won't. This is seriously, like, it's not fun things to look at, you know? It's not like memes. These aren't funny. They're not cast in a funny light. They're not, like, edgy. It's literally just, like, how fucked up the world is. Don't fucking go there, pretty much. Like, yeah. You are given... Like, this is your big, bright red, flashing warning sign. I just find it interesting. It's just like, yeah, it's grisly, but it's like, huh. We really aren't shown a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't remember where I saw it, but I've seen pictures of the aftermath of Tiananmen Square before.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
I had never really thought about it before that, because like you see the picture of the man in the tank and it's like, oh, this is very like harrowing, and
What
it
a
makes
powerful message.
yeah. But like that's all most people know about, because like even here in America, like they don't teach you about that in school.
Yeah,
So like
because
most people don't realize the reason those tanks were there was like college students protesting. Those were tanks were moving in on a college campus to threaten kids.
Those were people our age.
Yeah. And
you're not an adult until you're like 25.
Yeah, those people they all ended up like that man.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was just like holy shit, like seeing that picture.
Yeah.
Was
it the big one that's like from a balcony of like a sweeping view of the entire courtyard?
No, it was like a picture of like one.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, I don't know. I kind of want to like give a brief description, but I don't think.
Yeah, that's probably a bad idea.
Yeah. It was just kind of like totally fucking eye-opening, because like I knew that there was a protest and China like wants desperately to hide what they did, but it never clicked why they wanted to hide it.
Right. Like, China, especially anymore, like everyone knows China just hides shit, anything that would make them look bad, even little shit. So like you never even consider like why are they doing this? It's just, oh, China fucking censors shit, but like
it's so normalized now.
It makes sense why, like, if you are playing something online with someone who's from China and you type in Tiananmen Square, their internet connection gets cut
immediately. Like, and it's become a meme now. Like, oh, haha, when I argue with someone from China and like it shows someone like putting their finger on the T key. Like, it's become a meme, but like it like speaking from a Western point of view, no one really knows why. Like it's more than just like what the United States did about the protests like last summer.
Right.
It's more than that. Like people be like, oh, the United States is covering up how police operate. No, the United States may as well be flying on every fucking news channel. Police officers shoot rubber bullets and blind people. Like the way the U.S. is handling how we handle protests, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like the president may as well have gone on TV and said, yep, we are actively shooting at protesters, compared to what China's doing to cover up everything.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane. But yeah. It's vile. It's just, I don't know. Back to the subreddit thing. It's just kind of full of that shit of like things that are gonna like kill you. But then there are some things that like they hurt, but it almost kind of like restores your humanity. And then recently I saw one thing that was genuinely kind of funny. Like funny, but like, and I guess odd sort of, because back when photography was becoming like mainstream, like people could take pictures of things now.
Yeah.
Medical students, like when you're a medical student, you have to operate on cadavers. Like you have to. That's how you start out. Cutting open a living person, you have to cut open a dead person first and make sure you're really good at cutting open dead people.
Right.
Well, anyway, so bizarre photography traditions started, and one of the most prevalent in the medical field was one called the student's dream, in which case a student would be posed like laying down on one of the operating tables, like one of the metal autopsy tables.
Right.
And the cadavers would be propped up as if they were the one doing the autopsy, like a reversed roles dream. And the picture is like I don't know, it's almost right out of like a spooky scary skeletons video,
Yeah.
like with the skeletons all jumping around. It's just kind of like, man, there were definitely a bunch of like 20 something year olds that are like, oh dude, pose this one, but like from 1910.
Yeah.
It's just like bizarre seeing like a grim sense of humor, but from like 100 years ago.
It's weird to see something like that too, and then like, yeah, it's funny at first, and then you stop to think about it, it's like, oh, those are actual dead bodies of people who were alive.
Yeah, I don't really feel like that bad about the cadaver thing because they donated themselves.
Yeah,
They knew
no.
what was going to happen.
I feel like if you donate yourself to a college, you kind of just need to know like someone's gonna fuck with your corpse.
Yeah, someone's going to do something silly with your body.
Yeah,
It's totally against the rules. Someone's going to do something silly.
yeah, they don't care. They're college kids.
Yeah. Oh, fun fact. It is entirely illegal. I don't know. Okay, so it's neither legal nor illegal to own a dead body. However, it is legal to own body parts.
Okay.
Also, it is legal to own a dead body if it has been fuck, what is that called? Processed. Like as in a cadaver, like plasticized and preserved, you know? In that case, it's legal to own a body, but if you write in your will, like, I want my family to bury me in the backyard,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to do that. Like, the courts will not rule for you to do that, which is kind of shitty. I
Yeah.
feel like people should have autonomy of their body, even in death.
No shit.
Yeah, because, like, have you heard about those cases of funeral homes? Like, not doing what they're supposed to?
Yeah, I've heard a couple of things like that.
Yeah, there was a really big one, like, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, a while ago. And it was this funeral home. And I forgot how exactly it was found out, but these people, these bodies weren't being cremated as they should have been.
Right.
Some were being cremated, but the bodies were being like tossed around just on the grounds of the funeral home, of the crematorium. So there were just human remains out there, and it was a huge case. It was enormous. Like, it made national headlines. I want to say it happened in the 90s or something.
That definitely sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was it was in a book I read called Death's Acre about the I guess formation of the first body farm. You know what a body farm is?
Yeah.
Yeah, about for people who don't know what a body farm is in the audience, it's a controlled area where people who donate their bodies to science will be put in different scenarios to see how the body decomposes, and then that data is used in like forensics courses. It's used to better understand like the cycles of insects, you know, like easier to determine like how long a body's like been in a field based on how many generations of flies were found on the corpse, you know, things like that make no sense to a normal person, but like could make or break murder investigation.
Right.
And there was a lot of backlash when Bill Bass, the guy who, or one of the people who started the body farm, there was a lot of backlash about him starting up the first body farm. People thought it was unnecessary. I think some people thought it was anti-Christian because these people weren't being given like Christian burials.
Yeah.
I think there was a smear campaign against him saying he was taking like the dead bodies of homeless veterans and using them.
What?
Like just anything they could do to get him to shut down the body farm.
Yeah.
Which didn't work. There are body farms
all
over the
place.
country now.
Yeah.
Because they're so useful. But yeah, it's a really good book because it not only like touches on that, but it also touches on like interesting cases that Bill Bass, who is a famous one of I think the most successful forensic anthropologist in the United States, and like interesting cases that he's dealt with, you know.
Right.
Some of them very sad, some of them kind of funny in their own way. Some of them like blindly interesting, like how arson experts, when a house burns down, they are still able to kind of tell what went where based on like formation of ash and layers of ash. Very interesting. I didn't really think of before I read the book, but yeah, you should totally read that. I think he was also one of the creators behind the show Forensic Files.
Really?
He's either one of the creators or he just showed up in a few episodes.
Yeah.
Let me find out, actually. I could have swore that his name
He
like
was
appeared.
credited.
Yeah. Let me
Yeah.
see.
It's interesting how like shit like that happens. Like body farms are everywhere today. It's pretty common practice. But that's pretty morbid and it's just normal for us. And back in the day, it was seen as really fucked up. And like, I guess if you really think about it, there's a lot of shit like that anymore. Cause like, when we were playing Sonic, we were joking about Charles Manson in those fucking interviews where he's dancing.
Oh yeah.
And like, he's become a meme. Like, there's tons of fucking Charles Manson fucking buttons and graphic t-shirts you can get. But like,
yeah,
he was a fucking prolific cult leader and murderer and serial rapist.
Serial rapist, and he wanted to start a race war.
Yeah, like literally, if he had been functional and not so mentally handicapped and just disturbed, he could have been the next Hitler.
Yeah, like, I'm no expert on Charles Manson by any means. I'm not one of those people who go out and, like, religiously study serial killers.
Right.
But, like, when you hear these stories about these prolific serial killers, Bundy, you know, fucking Dahmer, Manson, you hear all these people and you hear about how charismatic they are. Yeah, that's not like flattery by the media. That is literally how they were able to commit such atrocities. Although, you know, who they were charismatic to is debatable. Like, Bundy, he was a fucking moron in court.
Yeah.
He was so self-assured, and he was so, like, he had his chest puffed out from all the women who were throwing themselves at him, which, by the way, another thing I fucking hate, cannot understand it. But he was so, like, just foolhardy that he thought he could represent himself in court, and oh wow, that judge ripped him up. Like, have you seen, or like, did you see the Bundy documentary that came out on Netflix like 2 years ago?
No, I didn't see it, but
it was like a docuseries.
I've seen like clips of him in court. Like, one I saw was a series like 6 minutes long of like him when he gets to court and he's walking around and like he's hot shit, and then he starts defending himself and then slowly declining into him, like slumped back in his chair, realizing, oh my god, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna get the fucking chair.
Yeah. I think him being found guilty was due almost exclusively to a bite mark they found on one of his victims.
Really?
Yeah, because it was very odd, because there's the original ring of the bite, but it was described that he bit, but then he like opened his mouth and like bunched up the skin and bit a little bit more. So there's technically 2 bites.
Right.
So there's like 2 places where his upper teeth bit into her skin, and from that they were able to be like, yeah, these are your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's almost, I mean, not exclusively, but that was a huge part. Like people really zeroed in on that, and they were like, he did this. You know?
Yeah, I'm not one of those people who's like really into serial killers either, but Charles
like
Manson.
I find them passingly fascinating, but I'm not going to be like, my life revolves around this.
Charles Manson has always been super interesting to me, just because like I'm more interested in like cults. I think are like just fascinating.
The psychology behind them is so bizarre.
I wish I still had it, but I like broke the frame and then fucking something else happened to it. I don't know what. I used to have a 45 of Helter Skelter by the Beatles. I think I still have that, and it was in a frame with the crime report and like him talking about Helter Skelter and his like, you know, how he thought that was going to be the end of the world, the race war that would come.
Yeah. His original idea, I think, behind the race war was, wow, shocker, rooted in racism. He
crazy.
thought that the white man and the black man, his words, were going to start a war, and the white man would lose, but the black man, this is not, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but the black man, not knowing how to run a country, how to run the world, would then cede power back to the white man.
Really?
Yeah, that was his whole thing. That's why he wanted the race war, because it would put white people on top. At least, like, take that with a grain of salt. That is just from, like, media that I have seen.
Yeah, because, like, I've heard him talk about it, but you also have to keep in mind, he's, like, these are interviews from, like, earliest at the late 90s. He's already completely fucking gone in the head mentally, and just, like, you know, he'll be talking, and then he'll just start babbling, you know, so it's like, anything he says, it's like, okay, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about anymore.
Yeah.
I've never read, like, his, because I know he wrote about it back during when he was, like, with the Manson family. I've never read anything like that. But I would be interested in reading it.
A serial killer that is just a laughing stock to me is Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
That sounds familiar. Why is he? What did he do?
Okay, so he was a serial killer, serial rapist, kidnapper, abuser, burglar, whatever. He, like, late 90s or late 80s, maybe early 90s, he was, like, arrested. He's the guy who had the pentagram engraved on his hand when he walked into court.
Okay.
Oh yeah, also the police officer said he, like, fucking stunk. Like, he smelled gross. Well, anyway, he's a laughingstock to me because there are girls on, like, fucking Tumblr and Twitter and TikTok, you know, like, the cesspits of humanity, where they think, like, he's super hot and attractive. But he has letters written to someone outside of the prison of him expressing remorse that Lazy Town doesn't air anymore. And that it was his favorite show. And then I think there's a story floating around that when Gangnam Style came out, he was caught dancing to it. And then when he was caught, he got, like, really mad.
Well, him and I can at least relate on Lazy Town.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Who doesn't love that show?
But there's, like, and it's, like, written very badly, like in shitty handwriting. Let me find, it's like, there's a picture of the letter. Lazy Town letter. Let me read it out. Okay. Okay, never mind. The handwriting isn't bad. It's just kind of, it's in all caps. It's kind of odd.
Okay.
Anyway, ever seen a show called Lazy Town? It's okay. It stars a 10-year-old girl named Stephanie. She wears a pink wig, a gymnast named Sporticus, and the villain that goes by the name Robbie Rotten. It used to be one of my favorite shows, but doesn't air anymore. No punctuation, no commas.
Right. Don't need them.
Don't need them. Don't need them. Oh, also a killer that no one talks about. The Japanese cannibal.
Oh, yeah, the guy who, like, he
wasn't put in jail. He wasn't put in a psychiatric ward.
He got arrested in, like, a foreign country, right? And because of, like, some kind of laws. Yeah, laws between, like, transferring prisoners or whatever, he got off completely scot-free.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucked.
Yeah. There's a documentary with interviews by him. I'll have to dig it back up.
Doesn't he have, like, a podcast now?
Does he have a podcast? I don't know.
I think so.
I do know, I don't know. I do know that he drew manga, I think, for a little bit. And yeah, like the documentary is like, it's so like, it's bizarre because he doesn't at all look imposing.
Yeah.
He was born weak and sick. He's very soft-spoken. He's very small-statured. I think he might be shorter than me. I'm 5'4". He has like a gait issue. I think he needs to use a walking stick.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very weak person. And the whole thing is bizarre.
Okay, we're like 6 minutes over. Next time on Pokemon Red, less murderer talk. Look forward to it.
Hell yeah, less murderer talk.
Less. Not none, but less.
Less.